Hey there guys, and welcome back. So in the previous video, we took a look at creating the website responsive for the tablet Breakpoint. As you can see over here, it looks pretty cool and pretty neat. Looks awesome. So make sure to check that out if you haven't done that already. And now we can go ahead with the landscape Breakpoint and the portrait Breakpoint. It should be fairly simple, so let's quickly go ahead and fix this up. So as you can see over here, things look a little different. So let's just take a look at how it looks on the original website. So there we go. So we've got a different navigation bar altogether that looks kind of different, and everything else looks a bit different here as well. So let's go ahead and actually finish up the layout, and then we can come to the navigation bar. Perfect. So the first thing I'm going to do is for the navigation wrapper, I'm going to go and set the top margin to 5 pixels. Now, does that mean that it's going to affect the animation? Let's take a look and see how this works. So it looks wrong over here, right? It looks very wrong, but we're going to fix that. So let's just go ahead and fix up the layout, and then we can go ahead and change the other things. So the first thing I'm going to do is in the hero section, I'm actually going to go ahead and change this to probably 100 pixel. Let's take a look. All right, so I think let's set it to 150. Doesn't matter. And then even the padding, let's change it from 30 to say something like 20. We don't want too much padding, so 30 and 20. And the font size of this needs to be a little bit more smaller. So let's go ahead and change this from 60 to probably something like 48 or probably even 42. Let's try 40. The thing is, these are in 2 lines. So let me just go ahead and move this like so. All right, that's looking pretty good. You can go ahead and change the font weight as well, but that's okay. 18, let's set that to 14. And here 24, let's set that to 20. All right, that's looking pretty good. And this button seems to be too big, so I'm going to set that to 16, or let's just make it 20. All right, that's looking pretty good. Up next, we've got the H2. So this we can set. So if this is 40, we would probably want to make this something like 28 or 24. We don't want it to be too big. Same thing with the H3 here as well. From 32, I want to make it 20. All right. 20. All right. Or maybe let's, I think 18 is a good number, or 20. We can leave it at 20. All right. And also we can see that the spacing over here is a bit too much. So over here, if we see 24, we can reduce that down to 16 or even maybe 12. That's a decent number. All right. So this is 18. Let's set that to 16, which is fine. And yeah, obviously this looks a little weird. Now the thing is, I'm going to actually remove this animation because we actually don't really need it, because nobody's going to hover when you're using the mobile phone. So we're going to see how to do that in a little bit. But for now, let's just fix up the layout. Over here, you can see that everything is in a 1x1 column grid. So we would want to do that. So we've got 4. So let's just go ahead and let's go to the grid settings. And we can go ahead and add in another column, and we can delete the row. All right. So now it kind of looks like this. Let's just delete a row. Oh, sorry. We need 4 rows, not 4 columns. And then we need 4 rows. There we go. So we've got total of 1, 2, 3, 4 rows. Then click on done. So I'm going to go select this and set this to manual. And we can go ahead and set this to column 1, end 1, row 2, end 2. All right. So that's pretty how we want it. This is going to be column 3 and 3, and then 1 and 1. Oh, sorry, column 1, row 3, and then row 3. All right, and this one is going to be column 1, and then row 4 and row 4. All right, so this is exactly how we want it, which is pretty good. Now the width of this is quite high. So if you take a look, I've set it to like 400 pixels, but we don't need it to be 400. Something like 250 should be good enough. So it looks fine. And the next thing you want to do is this content section. Let's reduce the padding of this to 20, like we did for the top section. Right? Maybe we can reduce this a little bit more also if we want, but I think this is a good height. And obviously, maybe you want to reduce the spacing between 2 elements. So the gap, maybe we could reduce that down to say something like 20. That should be pretty good. Click on done. Yeah, this looks much better. All right. Coming over here to the download section, we want all this to be in probably one row. So I can select the content grid. Let's actually select the content section first. Let's change this to 20 and this also to 20. And then we can select the content grid. We can start adding rows. So we need 1, 2, 3, 4 extra rows. So just 4 extra rows. We want 0 columns. And click on done, and that should beautifully, sit exactly the way we want. Pretty good. Same thing over here for the footer. Let's change this to 20 and 20. All right. This seems to be too big. So for the width, I'm just going to set that to probably 80% of the width, and maybe reduce the font size to 20, or maybe even let's go 18 should be a good number, or maybe even 16. Let's see what works. Yeah, 16 is good. This button, we want to make sure that it's the same size as this. So this was 20. So we want to come over here and set this also to 20. Pretty good. All right. This also, we could reduce this down to say something like 16. Okay. And look at the footer. We can see that the footer is one below each other. So that should be fairly simple. Let's just select the footer grid. Let's create it. Let's add in another row and delete a column. And now we have everything one below the other, which is perfectly fine. And as you can also see that everything is center aligned, not left aligned. So we can do that as well. So the only thing we have to do is select all the elements, or actually we'd have to select one of the blocks, and we can change the alignment to horizontal center, and that's going to go fix it up for everything. Maybe you can increase the size of this. So from 25 row, we can set it to like 35, give it a little bit more space. And this should be pretty good. Set this to 1500 so we can probably see the bottom part. Yes, so this we would have to drastically scale down. So from 16 to 12. And let's actually set this back up again to auto. All right, let's take a look how it looks. It looks pretty good and pretty decent. All right. Yeah, obviously it breaks because we entered the other breakpoint, but that's okay. So we can just work on this. It's looking pretty good, not bad at all. And this spacing probably might be a bit too much. So what we can do is we can select this, and here from 100, we could probably reduce that down to say something like 50 pixels over here. So it kind of reduces the amount of spacing over here, 50 pixels. That's pretty good. All right. The last thing is we need to go to the mobile portrait. Before we do that, let's just go to the mobile, the navigation bar actually, and see how to fix this. As you can see, we had added an interaction to this, right? So if I go to the interactions tab and I click on this, this is basically the interaction that happens. But what I want to do is here, of all these interactions, I'm going to come over here, and I can actually choose over here in the trigger what all devices I want this animation to happen. So I want this animation that we were talking about. If I go to the desktop view, this animation of the, it's scaling into black. We want that to happen only on the tablet and the landscape, but we don't want it on the phone and on the portrait. So now if I scroll, you can see that animation does not happen because we disabled it for the desktop, for the mobile landscape and the mobile portrait. But if I go back to the tablet view, that animation happens. All right. So that's the way you control on which devices you want the interactions to happen. All right. So the next one is to actually design the look of this. So if I go to the mobile landscape view, this kind of a look. So as you can see here, we've got the logo in the center. We've got this icon, which is basically to turn on dark theme and light theme, which we are not going to be doing, but I'm just going to leave it like so. And then we have this menu bar. All right, great. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna select this menu bar, and I'm gonna come back over here. And if I go to the navigator over here, let's take a look at how this is built again, right? So we've got the brand, we've got the nav menu. Now the nav menu is hidden. It's inside the hamburger menu, and then we have the menu. So the first thing I wanna do is this, I wanna customize the look of this. So I'm gonna select this nav bar that we have. Let's actually select the nav wrapper, and I'm gonna get rid of the margin on the top and the bottom. All right, we want it to be exactly hitting the top edge, which is perfectly fine. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to select let's go inside, let's select the nav bar, or we can select the nav wrapper itself, and we can change the color of this nav wrapper to a different color. So I've got a color which is 222C4D, and that's going to give that blue color. But the other thing is that here the icon needs to change the color as well. So I'm going to click on this icon that is inbuilt. Now obviously you can go ahead and change this icon to whatever you want, but for now I'm just going to leave it to default. If you want to change it, you can go ahead and import the icon from here and then just drag it inside. It should work. So I'm going to select this and I'm going to change the color of this to white. All right, so now we have this white icon. That is perfect. Okay, so now once this is done, I want to move the menu icon to the right side and have this in the center. So if you look over here, this is how it looks. All right, so we have the menu and then we have the icon, the logo here. Now this menu icon has a different color, but to keep it simple, I'm just keeping it for white. And if you want to change this menu icon, you could easily do that. You could go ahead and import your icon over here and then just drag it and drop it over here and it should work. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this menu button, and to space it out to the left side, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the position, and from relative, I'm going to change it to absolute. All right, and as you can see, it says absolute positions an element relative to the closest positioned parent. So when I say absolute, all right, it's going to push it over to the left hand side like so. And I can also click over here, which is left, so it goes and sticks to the left hand side and the icon becomes in the center. Now you might face an issue. So what you can do is you can select this the actual nav wrapper, and you can give it a height of any number. So I've given it 60 pixels over here. The next thing you want to do is you want to select this nav bar and set the height of that to 100%. I actually kind of messed up the recording, but this is actually what you want to do. You want to select the nav bar, set that height to 100%, and you want to choose the nav wrapper and you want to set that to 60 pixels or whatever pixel you want, and now it's going to work smooth. So if you take a look and I click over here, you can see that we have this navigation that happens, but it's kind of messed up. All right, we have all this unnecessary hover animation, but there isn't any hover animation on any of this. So what we can do is we can come over here. Let's actually click on the settings. You can select the nav button and you can choose open menu. All right, and then you can select one of these navigation links and we can actually change the values right here. So let's come down and see how to fix this. So we can change the weight to normal. The color of the background will be 334479. Okay, we want the rounding to be, so we don't want any transitions. We want the rounding to be 0, and we also want to give a border at the bottom, all right, and give it a 1 pixel border, as you can see here. And we can change the color of this to be white with probably an opacity of 20%, just to give it a little bit of definition. All right, and as you can see, there is some issue. So let's go to the hover state, and in the hover state, we can see that the height is 50 pixels. So we can come back to the none state. Let's just open this up again. And in the none state, we can set the height of that to 50 pixels. So it looks fine now. So if we quickly take a look at how this looks, it looks pretty good. It looks pretty fine. All right, now there is a little bit of spacing issue. So let's just quickly fix that. Let's open up the menu again. Let's select this. And I think it's because of the padding on the top and the bottom. I'm going to set that to probably like 15. So now that's in the center. Now we would want to do the same thing for this. Now for over here, if I open this up, you can see that it's no more kind of a button. It's just a text with a cyan color. So we can actually select that. We can select this button. We can go to the hover state and we can actually just go ahead and reset everything. So no box shadow, no transformation, no transition. All right, let's take a look. This thing keeps changing now and then. So yeah, and the color also changes. So we don't want that. So let's go to the hover state and let's change the color to white. Basically, you're resetting everything. The image gradient color, we can set that to be transparent. So we can click here to make it transparent. And let's take a look at this again. All right, this is almost done. So the next thing we can do is we can select it. Let's open it up again. All right, let's select the button. And we can actually select the nav menu and push everything to the left side. All right, so everything is left aligned. And on the button, we can set in the none state, we can set the background to be, transparent. Okay. Yeah, we can give this a height of 50 pixels and then probably 15 on the top padding. We want to change the weight to normal. All right, now here the color isn't changing, so what we can do is we select the entire nav menu and change the color of this, and we can actually pick the color and we can drop in that color. All right, another thing we can do is we can select this nav link and apply that same class to this as well. So we can select the button and we can call this navigation links. So one thing we can do is we can select the width and set it to 100% and also change the text to left align. There we go. And now it perfectly works. That's exactly what we needed. The other thing is if we select the navigation menu, we can set the width of this to 100% instead of 80%. So it takes up the entire space. And also another thing that we can do is we can go over here and we can set the menu fills page height. So if we do that, it should ideally take up the entire height. But if it isn't, what we can do is use another trick for that. We can open up the menu, we can select the nav menu actually, and set the height of that to 100%. So now you can see that it takes up the entire kind of space of the entire thing. All right, that's pretty good. Now, one more thing that we need to do is change the look of the menu button when it comes down. So we want to select this, select the menu button, and when you're in the open state, we can go to the background image, we can copy that color style of this, and it should look pretty much like this. All right, so oh yeah, and this needs to be a different color. So in the navigation links over here, I'm going to add a combo class and then call this cyan. All right, because it's like a cyan color. Okay, and I'm just going to quickly change the color of this to like a cyan color, like the one that we have. All right, and that should pretty much match this what we have over here. Okay, so now let's test it out. So if you scroll down, you can see that this animation happens, which was there on the tablet view. We don't want that on the landscape view. So how to fix that? So let's go to the actual interaction that we created, which is this, and click here, which is basically this scroll interview animation. And I can choose which devices I want that animation to happen. I want that animation to happen only on the desktop view and the tablet view, but not on the mobile and the mobile landscape view. So we can just click here and uncheck it. So now if you take a look, it doesn't happen. So I can click anytime and it goes down, goes up. All right, so that's basically how we want to do it. So let's just quickly take a look, and things are a little messy over here. So let's quickly fix that. We can select this hero paragraph and we can reduce down the size of that to 16. And instead of giving it a fixed width, I can set that to 100%. All right, which is fine. Okay, and even in the hero wrapper, we've got a lot of padding, so we can set the padding of this to say something like 20 and 20, or maybe let's go for 32, 32, 32, and 32. All right, everything else looks fine. We've got this annoying hover animation, so we will fix that in a bit. I think everything else is fine. We could probably change the content to 16, which is fine. Here everything looks fine, and here everything looks fine as well. So how do we remove that? So I'm going to go to the tablet view and I want to remove it here so that it gets removed every single where. So how do we do that? So I can come over here, select this link block, and let's go to the hover state. And here in the phone, let's actually see what's the size on the desktop, which is around 250 pixels. So in the hover state, we want to go and change that to 250 pixels so that there isn't any hovering. And yeah, that looks pretty much it. All right. And things on the tablet view look a little bit different. So let's just quickly go and fix that. I think we made a mistake. All right. So we need 2 columns and 2 rows. So I'm going to select the link block, set this to manual, set this to 1 and 1 and 1 and 1. This is going to be 2 2 1 1. This is going to be 1 1 2 2, and this is going to be 2 2 and 1 1. Sorry, and 2 2. All right, yeah, so just a quick fix. We made a mistake over there. Right now, as you can see, if I hover, it doesn't hover over here. So here, it's kind of hovering. So let's just quickly see why. So we've got 150. Let's go to the hover state. And over here, it's supposed to be 150. So let's just leave that as default. And let's just quickly take a look. All right, so now it doesn't work. We do have these shadow animations, which I guess are fine, but we don't want the scaling animation. And on the same thing over here, we have this animation over here. And then it's over here, over here, over here. Now, as you can see, we have an issue over here. It's kind of getting cut off. So to quickly fix that, what we can do is, oops, let's just get out. We can select the link block and we can come down to the background and we can actually add in a white color background. So we have a background and we have an image. So that fixes that issue that we've been having. Pretty good. Let's go to the mobile view. And the only thing we would want to do, everything else is fine. The only thing we would want to do is probably reduce the font size of this. So I can select this height and I can set it to say something like 32, which is fine. And maybe this is too huge. So all these small settings that you can tweak on your own should be fine. So we can set that to like 200. All right. Oh yeah, now it's going to scale it up because we have the hover as well. So we're going to set that to 250, just set it back. And yeah, I mean, that's looking for mobile breakpoint. That looks pretty good. Let's test out how this looks over here. Yeah, it looks pretty damn good. All right. So that's pretty much it on how we do it for the mobile landscape and the mobile portrait view. So basically our website is finally done. Now, how do we export it? How do we host it? How do we optimize it and get this website up and running? So we're gonna take a look at all that in the next video. So I'll see you guys in the next video.